Hi and Assalamualaikum to Madam Farida. Today I will present about the reflection of culture in practice of comparative observations. Before we begin, let me introduce myself. My name is Nur Ashikin binti Abdul Rahman from class 2H and my meter number is 2024741179. Firstly, what is Gerd Hosfeld culture dimension? According to textbook by McGraw-Hill Education, Gerd Hosfeld culture dimension is dimension of culture that help explain how and why people from various cultures behave as they do. In 1918, Hosfeld identified four aspects of culture, which is masculinity versus femininity, individualism versus collectivism, power distance, and uncertainty avoidance. In addition, two new criteria were added, which is indulgence versus concerted and long-term versus short-term orientations. These dimensions were identified in 1980. Firstly, let me begin with masculinity and femininity, where Hosfeld described masculinity as a culture in which the primary values are achievement, money, and possessions. For instance, Germany has a high masculinity index where individuals are encouraged to be independent decision makers, and achievement is defined in terms of recognitions and wealth. Meanwhile, the meaning of femininity describes a situation in which the dominant values in society are caring for others and the quality of life. For example, Norway is a country with free education for everyone, equal access to healthcare, and healthy work-life balance. Secondly, individualism versus collectivism is a cultural variable that measures people's level of integration into organizations and the significance they attribute to accomplishment and connections. For example, individualism may be illustrated in American technical companies where annual performance evaluations prioritize individual accomplishments. Meanwhile, in a society characterized by collectivisms, for example, a Japanese manufacturing organization's major purpose is to ensure a project team's success. The team's total success may be credited to their joint effort, fostering a sense of togetherness and shared accomplishment. Thirdly, power distance, where they assess how less influential members of institutions and organizations tolerate unequal power distribution. For example, organizations in low power distance countries such as the Netherlands often have open lines of communication and flat structure that promote equality and include employees in decision making. Besides, countries with a high power distance such as India tend to have decentralized and flattened organizational structure. There is a clear hierarchy in Indian enterprises and obedience to authority is expected. And fourth is about long-term versus short-term, where long-term orientation tend to focus on the future to achieve long-term results. For example, Japan. Japan has a long-term orientation which focuses more on future rewards and sustained effort toward achieving goals. On the other hand, short-term oriented culture focus more on the past and present or the future. For example, Spain is identified as having the importance of enjoying and experiencing pleasure. Last but not least, indulgence versus restraint, where indulgent civilizations encourage the immediate fulfillment of innate human desire. For example, countries with high indulgence are often found in the Americas and Western Europe, including the United States, Australia, Mexico, and Chile. They are probably prone to openly expressing happiness and perceive themselves as having autonomy over their fates. Meanwhile, restraint is characterized by stringent regulations, both in terms of cultural norms and procedure. For instance, Japanese culture places greatly importance on modesty and humanity in working. Employees frequently refrain from engaging in obvious gesture of influence of social standing. Lastly, uncertainty avoidance refers to the degree to which individuals feel frightened by uncertain circumstances and have developed belief and organizations to avoid them. For example, the Greek culture is characterized by low uncertainty avoidance, making it more easygoing and receptive to change. They support creativity in organization to encourage employees to take the initiative and accept responsibility for their activities. In contrast, South Korea have a high uncertainty avoidance for culture. For example, South Korean companies intensively embrace management to handle uncertainty. The South Korean financial institution may have strict risk assessment method to examine and manage all financial risks or Lloyd investment approval. Next, the two countries that I choose for make a differences in dimensions are Sweden and South Korea. Sweden, officially known as the Kingdom of Sweden, is a Nordic country located in Northern Europe. Sweden also have higher education where Sweden universities offer tuition-free education to both Sweden and international students. The system was deeply rooted in Sweden's commitment to equal access to education, and they believe that education should be a public good accessible to all. Next point is Swedish society lifestyle are characterized by a high standard of living, social equality, and environmental protections. Outdoor activities and environmental sustainability are integral to Swedish life, which cities like Stockholm and Gothenburg celebrate for reliability and rich culture sense. Meanwhile, South Korea it is recognized as the Republic of Korea, a vibrant and dynamic country situated in East Asia. South Korea is now recognized as one of the globe's biggest and most innovative economies, driven by key sectors including electronics, autos, shipbuilding, and steel. Host multinational corporations such as Samsung, LG, Hyundai, and Kia, South Korea is also a leader in information technology, telecommunications, and robotics. Korea also has a range of culture which include K-pop music, Korean drama, and films. Internationally, acclaimed artists like BTS and movies like Parasite have brought global recognition to South Korean culture. Moreover, South Korea educational excellence education is highly valued in South Korea, and its education system is considered high. For example, Seoul National University is a highly competitive university. As it is one of the top universities in South Korea, typically the acceptance rate varies each year based on the number of applicants and available spots. Generally remains very low, often below 20% for undergraduate programs or acceptance students. Let's see the next part, which is work culture aspect. In the first category is identify the differences between communication style. I have been choose two culture dimension, which is masculinity and femininity, and the second is indulgence versus restraint. First, in the masculinity and femininity dimensions, communication styles are indicated in South Korea and Sweden. Korea is more inclined to the masculine dimensions regarding hierarchy, which influences communications in South Korea since hierarchical connections with seniority and rank are greatly valued, as seen by the formal and respectful language used during professional interactions. For example, junior employees wait for their senior counterparts to speak during their meeting. When a senior executive speaks, everyone listens attentively. Meanwhile, the communication styles in Sweden, heavily influenced by its feminine dimensions, use direct communications where employees are encouraged to speak freely, openly, and clearly about their ideas and opinions. The second dimension that I choose is the indulgence and restraint dimensions, where South Korea tend to exhibit characteristics that are more aligned with high restraint in hospitable culture dimensions. This means that South Korean communication styles are influenced by society. For example, in business meetings, there is often a strong emphasis on formalities, respect for seniority, and careful considerations of how one's word and actions affect group harmony. Meanwhile, Sweden is characterized by a high indulgence score in cultural dimensions of Swedish communications. There is a tolerance for unconventional or diverse expressions and behaviors, reflecting a culture that values individual happiness and fulfillment. For example, in social gathering or in the workplace interactions, Swedes may openly express emotions and opinions. Second category is leadership approaches. Effective leadership is essential to the development of innovative ideas and the accomplishment of corporate objectives. Starting with the masculine aspect of South Korea leadership, there is an emphasis on hierarchy, status, and achievement. Leaders often adopt an authoritative and decisive style, reflecting the cultural value placed on success and recognition. For example, Korean leaders establish ambitious goals for their teams on demand for high levels of performance and devotion for their members and reward those who achieve or surpass the expectations. However, in Sweden, leadership approaches strongly reflect the country's feminine culture dimensions. A culture of leadership in Sweden places an emphasis on respecting the individual while stimulously fostering the group, while the leader is responsible for maximizing the potential of the group that has been created and cultivating any synergies that may emerge as a consequence. The second cultural dimension is about indulgence and restraint. Initially, in South Korea, leadership approaches were significantly influenced by the cultural dimensions of restraint. Leaders in South Korea typically emphasize discipline, adhere to norms, and collective goals over individual gratifications. This is evident in the formal and hierarchical nature of Korean workplace, where leaders maintain clear authority and expect high level of education and hard work from their employees. Even so, in Sweden, leadership approaches are significantly influenced by the country cultural orientation toward indulgence. Swedish leaders tend to encourage open communicating and innovations, allowing employees to voice their ideas and opinions freely. Next, I will talk about decision-making process. In South Korea, the decision-making process within organizations reflect of masculine dimensions. The masculine aspect is evident in the hierarchical and authoritative nature of decision-making. South Korea uses a consensus decision-making process in certain situations similar to other countries in regions. For example, in a South Korean company, senior executives might set ambitious targets and make strategic decisions with a top-down approach, expecting employees to execute this decision with prestige and dedications. This reflects the masculine culture of valuing competitive and performance. However, in Sweden, the decision-making process is strongly influenced by the country's feminine dimensions. This approach reflects the feminine dimensions that value relationships and the quality of life. For example, in a Swedish company, decisions are often made through extensive meetings and workshops where employees at all levels are invited to share their ideas and perspectives. Lastly is about rewards and incentives. Reward and incentives are essential components of organization management to motivate and recognize employees for their contributions and performance to the company. Begin with the masculinity and femininity dimensions in South Korea and Sweden. South Korea get reward and incentives that align more with the masculine dimensions, with creating a nonsense approach to motivating employees. The masculine aspect evidence in a strong emphasis on performance, achievement, and competitiveness within the employee. In many South Korean companies, rewards such as bonuses and promotions. On the other hand, in Sweden, the rewards and incentive system is predominantly shaped by a feminine dimension. Swedish organizations are strongly emphasized creating a supportive and inclusive work environment. Non-monetary rewards are highly valued and commonly implemented. For example, Swedish companies often provide generous parental leave, flexible working hours, and wellness programs that include fitness memberships and mental health support. Second cultural dimension is indulgence and restraint about rewards and incentives between South Korea and Sweden. First, South Korea tend to lean more toward restraint than indulgence. One reason is that the company work ethic is known for long hours and high level of dedications and commitment. South Koreans tend to have a high saving rate and are generally cautious about spending. In restraint culture, rewards and incentives are often tied to long-term goals, group performance, and harmony within the organizations. For example, in many South Korean companies, bonuses are promotions and frequently based on seniority and overall team performance rather than individual accomplishment. However, in Sweden, rewards and incentives are heavily influenced by the cultural dimensions of indulgence, which emphasize personal well-being, freedom, and a balanced approach to work and life. Swedish organizations typically design reward systems that cater to individuals' needs and promote employee satisfaction and motivations. For example, Swedish companies often provide flexible working hours, generous parental leave, and opportunities for professional development as part of their incentive programs. To sum up, South Korea and Sweden have a different working environment and culture. In particular, Korean workplaces are characterized by high power distance and authoritative styles as well as respect for authority figures and seniority. On the other hand, Swedish organizations have a reputation for being more egalitarian and open. They prioritize flat hierarchy to enable free-flowing communication between members of various levels within the company. Thank you for watching my video. Hope you all made them understand. Thank you.